I don't know what I'm gonna make this video about. I was thinking about doing videos on just some prison stories. Um, a lot of times in prison, uh, people that haven't been, they think that it's a lot like the movies, right? And I'm sure in some situations that it is. I'm sure if you watch my videos, you probably know my stories. Most of the time, I talk about car stuff and just different things that I'm doing. But I was trying to think of some funny stories about prison. Basically, I did 5 years in a federal prison, and there's a lot of funny things that happen. Um, I don't even know where to start. I used to, I don't know, we're talking about the things that I was trying to think of funny stories, but so anyway, geez, where to even start here? So when I first got to prison, um, um, oh, I got a story. Okay. So on the way, I was going to write them down and prepare, and it's not my style. Uh, anyway, so uh, once you get arrested, a lot of times you'll get out on not bond, but you'll get out on pretrial services, basically. State, if you don't know, state and federal um, entities are totally separate. So basically, state goes one way, federal goes another way. Um, After you're convicted, you get your sentencing, um, all those things, or you take a plea deal, which most likely that's what you're going to do. Um, then you spend about 6 weeks getting transferred from county jail to county jail to work your way um, to prison. So um, uh, there's this one time when I got one of my last stops was Chickasaw, Oklahoma. Um, I actually I rode Con Air. If you've ever seen the movie, with Nicolas Cage and all that. Um, Actually, that airplane is in Wendover. If you go to the Wendover Air Force Museum, and there's a strip there. Um, the plane from that movie is actually there. So it's called Jailbird, I think is what it's called. But anyway, so let's talk about Con Air a little bit. So Con Air is very movie-like. So it's at the Austin airport. It's at the back part of the airport, and the county jail van pulls you up there, or bus, and then you get out, and it's surrounded with guys with shotguns and rifles, kind of movie-like. And um, they don't tell you where you're going for safety reasons. It's not like a commercial line, where you get peanuts and whatever, something to drink. They tell you get in and shut the fuck up and don't talk to anybody. Of course we do, somewhat. We try to. If you have to go to the bathroom, the guard goes with you and literally stands breathing on your shoulder. It's pretty awesome. So anyway, it's not supposed to be fun, right? If it was fun, then uh, everybody'd love going, right? But it's not fun. It sucks, right? It's supposed to. So anyway, we land in the at the airport near Chickasaw, Oklahoma, and they're like, okay, you know, one through, they count the guys off 1 through 100. 50 uh, stays on the plane. 1 through 50, then 50 through 100 gets off, right? So I look down and I see this prison bus, and it is a ratty piece of shit. And I was like, damn it. If the bus sucks, you can bet the facilities suck too, right? And it was true, right? So what they did in Oklahoma and Chickasaw is they took one of those old, you go to a small town, it's like an old brick building, right? and basically they built a steel structure inside of it. So when you look out the window, it's there's a big gap, whatever, 5 6 feet, and then the brick outer building. It's interesting the way they did it. But anyway, so I'm there, and I'm pretty. I've never been to jail, right? All my references were were movies, right? I have no life experience in that stuff. It was the only time I'd ever went. Haven't been back, never before. It's just one time in my life. And so I get there, and all right, I'm looking around, whatever. All right, there's this white guy there, right? And he's like, motions me over. He wants me to be his bunkie, right? And so, all right, cool, all right, whatever. So I put my stuff up, a little chit chat, whatever. All right, I go out into the pod, whatever, watching TV or just walking around. There's nothing to do, right? And he comes up to me. He says, "Hey, man, do you want a haircut?" I'm like, yeah, I want to tighten up. I want to look fresh, right? Things suck, but I don't have to look like I suck, right? Uh, and so he asked the guard for some clippers. All right, cool. All right, I think it's normal. I don't know, right? So he shaves my head, right? You might already see where this is going. Maybe you don't. I didn't, right? Um, and so he shaves my head, and I go back to the cell, and he's drawing, right? He's drawing on the wall, right? Swastikas and lightning bolts. And I grew up, east side of Austin, right? I didn't grow up a minority. I knew one other white person other than my family. And so I always just saw people as people, right? You're brown, you're black, I don't care, right? Growing up, you're my friend, and I didn't see it any other way, So I go back out in the pod, and I'm talking to a black guy, and just shooting the shit, just something to do. I don't know, just go back up to the pod or my cell, and my bunkie goes, "What were you doing?" I was just talking to that guy down there, about whatever it was, Um, he says, "Why were you talking to that black guy?" I said, "I don't know, man. That's where I grew up. People are just people. It's not that way, And he proceeds to tell me that in prison, the whites stick together, the blacks stick together, the Hispanics stick together, the Asians stick together, right? And basically said, if something pops off, we got to stick together. I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. I didn't realize that it is absolutely that way, which I found out later on. Um, so anyway, that's the story. Con Air, and then that one where they shaved my head, or the guy shaved my head, and I didn't realize what was going on there. So anyway, I end up I get to the yard, which is so eventually it took 6 weeks, and you finally get to the prison that you're going to do your actual time at. I ended up in Pollock, Louisiana. Um, kind of good in a way, because my dad is Cajun. He's from Louisiana, Monroe Hodge area, all that stuff. And so basically, I was familiar with the culture. I'm familiar with the do's and the don'ts, stuff like that. You've got to read your crowd, right? You can't, right. I mean, you don't have to, right? But it's really in your best interest, But it was people that I was familiar with, how they talk, what's what. So they drop you off at the oh, what is that? It's a high, with the with the big towers and the razor wire and all that stuff. Very intimidating place. So the bus pulls up, everybody gets off, right? I'm a what they call a classified as a on my jacket, right? Anyway, on my jacket, it's a non-violent offender. You know, I have no violence. I have no uh, priors. I have nothing, man. You know, you know, and so anyway, so I was lucky enough to get to go to a camp. They call it Camp Cupcake, a camper, right? They have uh, club fed, right? So that's what they refer to in these prisons. This type of prison that I went to. Anyway, so they let me out of the bus, and they go, okay, see across that field over there? That's where you're staying. Go ahead, right? So I've been locked up. So I'm thinking, okay, are they going to shoot me, or like, what's really going on here? Because basically, I've been shackled, belly chain, ankle chains. You know, with any movement was so controlled for 6 weeks that I thought it was a setup, right? Uh, but it wasn't. You know, that was actually so the way the federal prison system does it is they have the camp. Most camps are set up to facilitate. I'm actually going to move the camera if that's okay. I just want to lay down. It's been a long day. It's late at night too. I'm just waiting for my wife to get home. So so anyway, they they set it up to where the satellite camp takes care of the main prison when things pop off. Basically, about every year, maybe I'm sorry, every few weeks, someone gets stabbed or killed. Sometimes it's a guard gets injured. So what they'll do is they'll put the whole prison on lockdown, and then they'll get uh, the campers to take care of it. So the campers will make lunch. They have a blood cleanup crew. Um, you know, basically so the guards don't have to do it. They have a guard to inmate ratio. So normally the guards, I'm sorry, the inmates would run the prison in the sense that whenever it's on lockdown. I mean, when it's not on lockdown, you have the guys that work in the kitchen, the guys that's clean, the guy, you know what I mean. So they don't have enough staff. So what they do is they have the inmates do it, which I did quite a few times. And there's actually a funny story with that. So um, anyway, so I'm walking across this field, and I walk up to this old guy, right? This inmate, and basically, I was like, are you a guard?" And he's like, "Hell no." You got offended by that, which I get it, right? I don't know, right? And so he's like, "No, you go over there, you check in with whoever." I was like, "Oh, okay." So anyway, the story I was going to tell you about once I was there. So one time we were making sandwiches, right? So we had to make. I think it was about 2,000 inmates on that compound. I think so. And so um, they're all locked up in their cell, and it's shaped like an octagon, right? So you have A building, B, whatever, C, and it's all in a big circle, like an octagon. And so we're making sandwiches, we're doing all that stuff, whatever. Horrible food, uh, disgusting, right? But again, you're not supposed to like it. It's supposed to suck, right? And it does. It achieves that. And so we're making Johnny Sacks, that's what they call them. And so we load them up on carts, and then we push them into through the middle of the prison, and when you're walking through there, all the inmates are watching the campers do their thing, right? And the sidewalk has this little um, what do you call them? The little things on the sidewalk, the spaces, whatever. So I'm pushing this cart, and the a lunch sack falls off, right? But you don't think it's a big deal, right? But 2,000 people are watching you bring you their lunch, right? It falls off. It hits the ground, and It's hot. It splats, right? Kind of splits the bag, whatever. And I stop and I'm like, I look at the guard like, uh, what do you want me to do? He's like, put it back on the cart. I said, you got it, boss. I put that sack on that cart, and maybe 1,000 people started banging on the windows, right? Boom, 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 boom. Because they're pissed off, right? Because they know someone's going to get that lunch that I dropped on the ground, right? That was a really weird experience. But I was like, man, I'm just doing what they told me, you know what I mean? So, anyway, that was a weird experience. Um, yeah, it's pretty wild. That one had the towers. It had, one time we had a guard that was, I don't know. I don't know what he was doing. But he was up in the thing aiming his rifle at us. I think he thought it was funny, or I don't know what he was doing, but pretty intense stuff, like, what are you doing, dude? Like, there's no reason for it. Um, but I'm trying to think of some other funny stories. So what we used to do, um, is we would um, you gotta know, man, we're bored as hell, right? There's nothing going on. So I was locked up with a guy named Tony. I won't say his last name. One guy named Tony, and Tony, he he was hilarious, man. He was so funny. I don't even know how to say how funny this guy was. He talked about one time where he had faked, um, I don't know, having mental illness or something, but he just told the story so well. Where he had a suitcase and he was acting like a doctor, and I don't know, he's just out of his mind. He's probably like high on meth or something. I don't know, pills. Um, you know, before he was actually there for meth as well, and he made it a lot better, man. Because he was such a funny guy, such a good dude. Make you laugh. What we do in the morning, we'd start rumors, right? Um, it's childish shit, I know, right? But we would make a rumor that was like kind of half truth, but not half, just total BS, And and he would start one, right? So then we worked together, and we'd get to work, we'd laugh about it, whatever, and then uh, at the end of the day, uh, he would ask me what rumors he had heard, or he'd ask me what I had heard, and I would ask him the ones that he'd heard, and it was just all bullshit that we had started. I know it's childish shit, but pretty hilarious. At the time, it was, I don't know how funny it is now, but it was just something to pass the time, because you're really miserable. You miss your family. Um, it's really difficult. It's like if someone locked you in a closet for years on end. That's how it feels. You know, not good. Even if you're fed and all that stuff, but it's pretty horrible. So, but it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be good. Think of another story here at that same prison. There was this guy. He thought for some reason that he ran shit, right? So they had some inmates that were sneaking off from the prison and going to Walmart with their wives and girlfriends, right? You got to remember, a camp is for nonviolent offenders. People that have less than, I think it's either 5 or 10 years, less than 10 years. Um, and yeah, and the older mates that did a lot of time say, they got 8, 10 years. You got, say, 2 years, 3 years. They're not going to talk to you. Like, you're not even there. You know what I mean? And they just ain't got nothing to talk to you about. And so anyway, this old dude thought he was running shit, and so the guards, the warden, they used to have, we had a track we could go walk around and relax in, just enjoy outside. It was actually in or near a national forest. It's surrounded by trees, and so they said, okay, well, after dark, you guys can't walk out there, because used to we could walk, till whenever. So this guy decided that he was gonna do a food strike, right? He was gonna show them, right? Uh, Fucking idiot. Anyway, so um, he says, okay, we're gonna do a food strike, right? I got to add some more to the story here. So uh, my bunkie at the time, his name, I can't remember his name, but we called him Voodoo. Right? Everybody had nicknames. Mine was Darko. So of course, because my name's Donnie, and but they just called me Darko. So when someone calls me Darko, I'm like, I know where I know you from. Um, but it was only in that time in my life. But anyway, whatever. Um, and so my bunkie Voodoo, he was a chef, right? He was a free world chef. So that was pretty sweet because he worked in the kitchen too. So what Voodoo would do, he would make a dish, and uh, I would tell him, I can tell him how he did it. I would describe what ingredients he used, how he did it. What did he caramelize? How did he? There's nothing else going on, but I liked food. Obviously, you can tell by my size. Um, and so anyway, so um, Voodoo, Voodoo was a major hustler, right? He was actually in there for crack cocaine on a kingpin charge. He was sleeping with some chick. She liked doing crack. They'd mess around, whatever, and he sent somebody to go get the crack because he didn't want to get his hands dirty, right? Sent him to go get crack. He got busted. He rolled on Voodoo, so Voodoo ended up getting a kingpin charge. It's an enhancement. It's more years basically. Yeah, it's instead of just the possession of the crack, now you're like this major player or something. So and he wasn't. He was just wanting to bang this chick, uh, and so anyway, there's this other guy. We'll just call him Kevin. I can't remember his name. Big Kev or something. I don't know. They all got names, whatever. Big Kev would make plates. You could buy plates. That's another common household in prison, is to buy these plates. Basically, they steal food from the kitchen, and then they sell it to the inmates. But they make it, they jazz it up, make it a lot better, make it more enjoyable, right? And so anyway, all this is going on. So Voodoo wanted to take over the food hustle, right, from Kevin. So that old guy, I can't remember his name. I don't know. He's an idiot. And so the rumor got out, right? The word's on the street, and because rumors spread fast in prison, and that there's going to be a food strike because they took away our outdoor walking, right? Okay. So I'm at work, right? My boss was Mr. Carley, right? Mr. Carley's a good man. I've actually talked to him since he retired, and I've talked to him since then. He said he was worried about me at the time, but he was a good man. I'm talking just a solid guy. He was, I guess, he's not really your guard. Basically, I worked at the garage, and he ran the garage. So, but he was a CO, but good guy. Anyway, so I'm at work, and Mr. Carley goes, Darko? I said, yes, sir. He said, can you do me a favor? I said, yes, sir. He says, I need you to go down to the cafeteria and get you a tray and just sit there. He said, you don't have to eat if you're not hungry, but he's Cajun, so he talks like that. But you don't have to eat. Just, can you do me a favor and get a tray and go sit in the cafeteria? I said, yes, sir, Mr. Carley, I can do that. He said, thank you, Darko. I said, yes, sir. And so I walked to the campus, the campus, like it's a college, right? But so I walked to I walked across the yard and went to the. I started to go to the cafeteria, but the other CO like kind of like motioned over, you know, come inside the dorm or whatever. And I said, okay, yeah, no problem. So I go in there, and the warden's in there, right? And everybody's, okay, quiet down, whatever. And the warden basically starts a little speech. He says, I hear there's going to be a food strike. Are you guys are thinking about a food strike? And he basically said, well, let me basically, let me tell you something. There ain't going to be no food strike. Just, dude was a cold dude. He was cool. And he said, there ain't going to be no food strike. You got two options. And right as he's talking, the big prison bus pulls up. It's a big MCI. It's a federal prison bus. Later on, I bought one and I cruised it around. It was actually kind of emotional because here I am. I've actually done that 4 times, where I went and bought a prison bus, from the government auctions, and I drove away from the prison. And I tell you what, how good that felt. It felt good. I was emotional because, here I've turned my life around, and I'm not riding one. This is mine. This is my bitch now. You know what I mean? It was really cool, but that's another story. Anyway, so as the warden's talking, the bus pulls up, the guard gets out, starts laying down chains, belly chains, and shackles and all this shit, right? So we're looking out the window. We can see all this shit going on, and we're listening to him. We're looking out the window, Anyway, the warden says you got two choices. You can either go to that cafeteria because this shit's over, or you can get on that bus right there. It's your choice what you want to do, right? And believe it or not, some idiots got on that bus, right? Why they would do that, I have no idea, right? I guess they thought they ran shit or they're gonna make a difference. So I can tell you, it didn't make shit difference. All it did was put them in a higher institution, and take away a lot of their freedoms, I'm not an idiot, and I didn't give a fuck, who gives a fuck if I can't walk outside for 2 fucking hours? Who gives a shit? Anyway, whatever, dude. So I go to the cafeteria, right, of course. So that whenever something like that pops off, they do I guess it's called a debriefing, right? The warden, well, actually, I'm sorry, not a warden. The CO, another CO, takes one inmate at a time into an office and says, what do you know about this food strike? Who's in charge of it? How did all this start, right? And they time it. I think it's 5 minutes. I don't know what it is, but they make sure that the time is exactly the same for every inmate. The reason they do that, obviously, because one guy stays in there for an hour, one in there for 30 seconds. Right. Right. It's not hard to figure out there. So, anyway, so what Voodoo did, right? Voodoo says, Kevin was a big part of the food strike. If you don't believe me, you go look at his locker. He was stocking food for the inmates for the food strike, right? Kevin wasn't doing that shit, right? Kevin didn't give a fuck. Kevin was trying to get his hustle on and sell them plates, right? And anyway, sure enough, the guard goes over to Kevin's locker. It's stocked to the brim with food, just bullshit, But it was because he was hustling plates. And that was the last time I saw Kevin. And Voodoo took over that whole hustle. It's a dirty game out there, that old guy that actually started all this bullshit. I saw him. They put that dude in the hole. I want to say 6 months, right? It's not. They take that shit seriously, But before that guy went in, he's riding his saddle and blazing his guns and showing his ass and talking shit and on his high horse. Yeah, they gave that dude a tune-up. I'll tell you right now, when he got out, he uh, he was off his high horse. His six guns weren't fucking blazing either. He shut the fuck up. I thought that was hilarious because it's fucking hilarious. And anyway, all right, let's try to think of some other stories. I'm trying to think of stories that I want to tell. That I mean, I'm not on any probation right now, so I guess it or supervised release or whatever. And I guess all that stuff's enough time's gone by now. Um, yeah, maybe I'll just wait on that. Oh, I can talk about. So a lot of people in some institutions, they make hooch. There's drugs, stuff like that, right? It was not that way there. So there, again, this was I got out in 11, so that was in '08. So it's been 2008, I guess. It's been a minute, right? I think I got there in '05. Maybe I left there in 2007. But I had actually decided to change my life um, before going to prison, right? So I got arrested, and I was like, oh boy, I fucked up, like big time, you know? So I know I didn't want to go back to prison ever, even though I hadn't even gone to prison yet. I already knew I didn't want to go. There ain't shit there for me. But fuck, you gotta go. You gotta do your time. Thought about going to Mexico, right? But I was like, or some country. Of course, in Mexico now, they'll extort your ass, and then you'll still end up going to jail and doing more time. Um, but yeah, but I had to. But what I decided at that time was to change my life. To do better. You know, doing drugs, which I love doing drugs. They are so fucking fun, right? Until it ruins your life completely, right? It's all fun in the beginning, right? It's not addictive because it sucks, right? Right? That's got to be a logical conclusion. It's a fucking blast until your whole life is flushed down the toilet, along with your health, right? So I felt really lucky. My whole drug experience from beginning to end was a year and a half. You know, prior to that, I'd never seen nothing, man. I'd never been around. I'd never seen no pills. I never seen no meth or cocaine or you know all that crap. I had never seen nothing. So I realized it wasn't the life that I wanted, and so I wanted to be. I got sober. I got sober a little bit before I went in, right? And yeah, I'll be actually 18 years this month. Yeah, I'll be 18 years sober this month. But there was plenty of alcohol. So what the guys would do on a Wednesday, um, you'd put in your order for what you want to drink. Vodka, Crown Royal, whatever it was you want to drink. And then they had the highway pickup crew. So their girlfriend or their wife would put the bottles in a bag or whatever, and then the guys would pick it up and they'd bring it into the prison, just flat up. I don't know how they snuck it in. I don't know how they. I don't know. Um, I didn't. I didn't drink the whole time. I started actually going to AA. That was my first time. You know, going to AA. Prior to that, I always thought I thought AA was for quitters, right? It's true, right? Uh, and I was like, fuck that. I ain't going to AA. Man, that's for fucking quitters, right? I'm gonna ride till the wheels fall off. And I thought at the time that it was cool. Live fast, die young. Um, it seemed cool in my 20s. My 30s, my early 30s. It's not so cool. You know. Um, there's so much living to do, and there's so much life to do, and so many beautiful things to experience, and so much magic and wonderment in the world. You're gonna miss all of it. That's what I told myself. All the things that you ever wanted to do, you're never gonna do them. You know, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna overdose. Um, a car accident from reckless, but from being high on pills and who knows what. Staying up for 2 and 3 days, 4 days, right? Um, I knew if I continued, the only places you're going to end up is prison, institution, I guess a hospital if you're lucky. I don't know. And I didn't want to do that. I really had a lot of living I wanted to do. I had a lot of things I wanted to do, and I've done so many things. So I definitely made the right choice. And life is hard. It'll kick the shit out of you if you let it. You know. But if you're drunk or high, you're you're fucked. Like, I don't know. You don't have a chance. You might get by for a while. You might fool some of the people some of the time, but you ain't gonna fool everybody all the time. And really, you're gonna end up fooling yourself. And I just couldn't do that. Um, when I got out of prison, my mom was there, and my mom, she made me promise her that that I would never put her through that again. And actually, before I went to prison, my mom was pretty upset, and she said, Donnie, I'm really sorry it ended this way. You know, and I said, Mom, it didn't end no way. It's not over. It hasn't ended. But in my mom's eyes, she thought that was it. You go off to prison and never see me again. And anyway, when I got out, um, I haven't seen my mom cry. My mom's been dead almost 2 years now, but I never saw her cry, or not often. She was a real strong person, but she cried when she picked me up, and she said, "Don't you ever put me through this again." And she was fucking serious. And I said, Mom, I promise you I won't. And then she stopped crying. She said, "All right, let's go." You know. Uh, so yeah, I kept that promise. You know, and my mom, actually, before she died, she told me a couple of times how proud of me she was that I turned my life around. You know, it honestly wasn't a hard turnaround. you I mean, really, um, being an active addiction, it was a shithole. I hated it. Being around people that, they're not your friends, right? Um, you know, in addiction, the term love, basically they'll say, man, they showed me some love, right? They gave you something out of your bottle, or they shared their sack with you, right? That's love, right? Show me some love, broke me off some love, right? Um, as you get older, you get sober, the definition of love changes, right? Love isn't destructive. Love isn't, tearing families apart. Love isn't misery. It's not love, you know. And you realize that, the first night after I got arrested, I got out. After I got arrested, my mom put up her house for my bond because we didn't have no money, man. And I was laying. Actually, I didn't. My mom didn't have a guest bedroom set up, and my mom was on one of those machines, those breathing machines, where you're snoring or apnea or whatever the fuck, whatever it's called. Um, but she had one of those machines, that help her breathe. And I had to share her bed with her. Of course, I'm laying there, and started crying. Man, I started crying and crying and crying because it hit me. I thought that I had friends, you know, and that's when I realized, honestly, my definition of love changed. It's like all these good time friends, all this people that I thought that we were friends, right? I realized I was the only one going to jail. Maybe I felt sorry for myself too. But it hit me hard, you know. Um, yeah, yeah. Basically, you got to figure it out, how to make those changes. You know, going back to prison, your odds are very high. You know, the recidivism, whatever the fuck that word is, your ass going back to jail is what I'm trying to say. But it hovers between 78 and 83%. You know, it's a known fact that education is the only thing that prevents that. But they're not in the business of education; they're in the business of incarceration, and business is good. You know, and it's unfortunate it is the way that it is, but it's cheap labor. It's set up. It's set up by the. And granted, you know, if you don't like it, um, don't act like a jackass. You know, don't. I gotta plug in my battery. You know, don't do things that'll get you there if you don't like it. You know. Um. So anyway, but it is a sham. You know, ultimately. But again, I'm not. I'm not. It is what it is. That's the system. It's cheap labor. But uh, looking around, the prison. You know, I'm sitting there with 10 dudes. I'm like, okay, how the fuck am I not going to be the one that's going to come back here? You know, only two out of 10 of us dudes are not coming back. How am I not going to come back? Right? So I started looking at the guys and I said, which one of these guys are going to come back and why? Right? Um, one was glorifying the thing that got you there. Right? Where the mind goes, where the mind's at, the body's going to go. You know? Um, and these guys would glorify, you know, the bitches, the hoes, the money, all that bullshit. Um, whereas part of that's true. Yeah, there is money. Yes, there are women that will. They don't love you, right? They're there for your sack. They're there for your bottle, right? They don't give a fuck about you. And you find that out, obviously. I didn't know, right? I thought it was a good time and mutual time. I don't know. I don't know what I fucking thought. I wasn't thinking. You know, I wasn't thinking with my head, not the one on my shoulders. You know what I mean? So, um, I didn't want to go back. It wasn't cool. It wasn't all right. You know, it was fucking bullshit. You know, you don't glorify um, the few magical moments. And there were some magical moments. You know, you get high enough, you get drunk enough, magic can happen, right? Few and far between, but it can happen. But damn, all the bullshit that's around it, fuck, it ain't fucking worth it, man. And it's funny that I guess I was worried about when I got out that um, that life wouldn't be full of wonderment. That life wouldn't have. At least it had a few magical moments when I was on drugs, right? I felt like before I really didn't know how many magical moments. I didn't feel like there were. You know, maybe I felt lost or hopeless. I really don't know. Well, I can tell you. You know, I'll tell you because I've thought about it. Obviously, I woke up. I grew up really poor. You know, and growing up poor, um, you kind of, at least I did, right? I felt like, you know, like an arrow on a path. You know, you're born poor white trash. You, you know, your dad's an alcoholic. Your mom suffered mental problems from her abuse as a child, right? Education, there was no priority on education. There was no talk of going to college. There was none of that shit, right? You're going to work, you're going to work hard. That's your life, right? You work for some company that you work 30, 40 years, whatever the fuck it is. 6 months before your retirement, they fucking fire your ass and you get shit nothing, right? That's what I felt my life was, right? I felt pretty hopeless. So felt sorry for myself, right? Uh, bullshit sorry for myself, right? I can tell you what prison changed. Some of the most miserable people I saw in prison were people that had a good life, right? They had money, they grew up, good lifestyle, good family, right? They had it good, right? They were fucking miserable, right? Then you see this other dude. This dude's happy. He's got a piece of bread and some butter on it, right? And that's what they're used to eating, so that's what he's eating. Fucking happy as shit, happy as fucking hell. Um, but but what was funny, what I finally realized, is that one, the pity party that I had for myself was complete bullshit, total bullshit, right? Life is wide fucking open. It's wide open at any moment. You'll have free will. I like the quote, without the belief in free will, there's no honor amongst men, right? It's to say you are responsible for your actions. You're not predestined for shit. At any moment, man, you're not a leaf blown on the wind. At any moment, you can change your direction. You can change what you give energy to. Um, it's fucking magical. It's magical. And really, what it gave me was the perspective of what life can truly offer you, you know? You think you got problems? You know, I had a bunkie. Um, you know, the old people got the bottom bunks, and the younger guys, even though I'm 40, 50 years old, there's older dudes 70, 80 years old anyway. Mr. Johnson. So Mr. Johnson had got cancer, right? And I'm sitting on the top bunk, and I look down, and I know he went to the doctors, and he talked about it a little bit, whatever. But he had an X-ray of his cancer in one hand, and he had his prison ID in the other hand, and he's contemplating his life. I mean, he's ate the fuck up, dude. I'm talking like all over his fucking body, right? He doesn't have a lot of time to live, and it's like it just reaffirmed, like, this is no fucking game. You want to fuck around, you want to keep fucking up, you are gonna fucking die here. It's no fucking joke. It's not fun. It's not okay. It's not all right. You know, and so I never forgot that. Um, it's really neat though. Like now, um, and it's been this way since I got out in 2011, and it's so fucking magical. I want to make videos on that instead of talking about prison. But and I will. I've made some. I haven't posted them, but I will. Um, but man, but when I got out, I had a whole new thirst for life. In other words, um, I, I didn't worry about nothing no more. You know, I worried about. Well, I found myself worrying about who am I going to be when I get out. You know, what's life going to look like? Before I went in, when I was on pretrial services, I was sitting there um, at work, and I saw this guy ride by on a bicycle, right? Just pushing real slow, pedaling real slow, just going by real slow. And it fucking terrified me. I thought, holy shit, is that going to be me, right? Am I going to be a convicted felon? Where am I going to work? Where am I going to live? What what am I going to fucking do? Like, is that going to be me? My whole time in prison, I thought about that guy on the bicycle, and I thought it through. I said no. I mean, this took years, of course, It's not going to be me. You know why it's not going to be me? Because I'm going to work as hard as I got to work. I'll work the longest hours, the sorriest shift. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to do what I got to do to better my life, to have a better life, as long as it's legal. That's important. As long as it's fucking legal. If it's illegal, I don't want shit to do with it. I was locked up with this one guy, right? He he had originally did a 10 piece, did 10 years. So they call it a 10 piece or a 5 piece, like it's a bucket of chicken. And anyway, he did a 10 piece, got out, right? He's on the straight and narrow. Real nice guy. Real nice guy. I forgot his name, but real nice guy. And he said, some dude asked for a number. Hey, man, give me the number to the plug, right? And he thought about it. He didn't want to do it. Man, I'm not in the game no more. Guy kept bugging, right? Gives the guy the phone number. That's all he fucking did. He didn't make money on it. He didn't shit. The guy was hooked up with the feds. For giving the phone number. That's all he did was give that phone number. He was doing another 8 years. Horrible, man. Horrible. And I think the other thing is that people don't realize how dirty the game is out there too. The game is so dirty. Of course, you don't really realize that until you hear other people's stories. There's people that are involved with the drug scene that all they do is get a percentage of the people that they bust, right? So if they start buying from you, they befriend you, whatever, if you want to call it that. Months and months go by, years, I don't know, whatever, and then boom, you're busted. When you're busted, they get a percentage of what you have, financial gains, whatever. I also saw other cases where someone would get busted. When someone's facing a lot of time, they will see the whole family go, right? Son, mom, grandma, right? They all go, right? So, if you, yeah, I'm just glad to be away from it. That's all I can say. There's nothing wrong with hustle, right? Hustle, you work your ass off is one. There's lots of ways to make money. The dope game, basically, it's person A willing to sell you this, person B willing to buy it. You get familiar with the product. That's it, right? It's not a complicated system. But what you realize is that there's nothing wrong with hustle. Just do it with something legal. You can do it with vehicles. People do it with tennis shoes. You walk into 7-Eleven, that's the biggest hustle there is, right? They buy a candy bar for 20 cents and they sell it to your ass for $2.99, right? It's the same concept, right? Money is truly unlimited in that sense. So, anyway, I'm pretty tired. So it's been a long day. I just want to make a video. I think I drank too much caffeine, so that's why I'm still up. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. It's almost an hour. I apologize for it being so long. I'll think of some other stories. There's tons of more stories in that. That was only at that the first prison I went to. So I ended up transferring later on to closer to home, which was really nice. So anyway, I'll make another video on that. This one's pretty long, so I guess we don't have a time limit. But anyway, I'll make another video some other time. All right, hope you enjoyed it.